Hey everyone, the name is Erik Thor, and in today's video allow me to tell you the secret behind how you can type the characters in a TV show or in a movie. And let me tell you the biggest mistake that people make when they are typing people in a movie. Well, the biggest mistake is everyone is looking at the characters from a movie from the perspective that there must be 16 types in a TV show. There must be a big variation of types within a TV show spectrum. Every TV show that I see people type the people in gets this chart with every 16 of the personality types. There's always an ISTJ, always an ESTP, always an ENFP, always an ENFJ. There is one person of every type, at least one person of every type, and that is frankly not how the real world works. In general, we tend to have bubbles in society, and often TV shows only show us one of these bubbles. How I Met Your Mother is one bubble, Friends is another bubble, and then all of these bubbles work differently. If you type the characters on Kim Kardashian's show, how many intuitives do you expect to find? If you type a soccer team, how many of the certain types do you expect to find? The biggest issue here is we can acknowledge that inside one personality type in a TV show, say a TV show with 4 ENFP characters, you can still see a big spectrum of people of different types. You will notice that in general the differences between the characters in a TV show, in particular what tends to happen is there are usually people of 4 or 5 personality types within one show, but then inside of this type there is a spectrum, a big spectrum, and you have the ENFP who is well developed and who is high on energy, usually the main character, and then you have the ENFP that is the opposite of them. And often this is kind of to create contrast between the two characters and to show that this is a hero, this is a main character we're dealing with, and it has an antagonist, another person of a similar type that has not developed as well as the other character has, and who has often different values, different upbringing, and different history. We need to be able to factor this culture into account, and we need to take this health perspective into account. And we need to understand that an ENFP who has gone bad will look vastly different to an ENFP who is representing the good of a TV show or a movie. And what is important here is to acknowledge that there are several archetypes in a movie that are unrelated to the MBTI. You have the sidekick of the hero, you have the villain of the hero, you have the mentor to the hero, you have the muse to the hero, you have the prince or the princess that must be rescued to the hero, you have the trickster who seeks to fool the hero. You have all of these archetypes, and they are gonna create some difficulties for you when you need to do good personality typing, good personality profiling. You have the scoundrel who seeks to get the hero off their path. Perhaps if the hero is dealing with being too high on expectations or too focused on being perfect, the scoundrel is a great contrast character, because the scoundrel can help the hero kind of balance themselves out. And often the mistake people make here is they are looking at the scoundrel assuming that the scoundrel must be a specific MBTI type. But often that MBTI type is going to be a reflection of, because a scoundrel is a character that is inherently flawed on some level. The scoundrel might be a person that's dealing with the issue of feeling like a bad guy, feeling like there's something wrong with them. And in this, coming to accept that you are a scoundrel and coming to accept that you are the bad guy, and kind of playing on this and kind of living up to this ideal. Just as the prince or the princess is a representative of someone who lives too much by everyone else's expectations, the prince or the princess is the character that wants to be perfect in everyone else's eyes. The hero is the representative of a person who seems strong-minded, strong-willed, motivated, energetic, and who seems highly determined towards a personal goal, who is on some kind of a journey towards growth. And often the sidekick is the representative of a person who lives in that area, who shares their interests. The sidekick happens to just naturally share the hero's dominant interests, but perhaps has different motivations, perhaps wants to pursue another career, perhaps happens to live another life alongside of the hero, but not exactly the same. And that's like how a movie works. A movie is built not on just 16 personality types, that would be too simple, but it's also built on showing the versatility within a type. And that is how you can become an amazing typer. When you learn to see the difference between an ENFP hero and an ENFP scoundrel, an ENFP rival, an ENFP muse, or an ENFP princess, you'll notice that, wow, this is a big spectrum. There's a lot of dimensions to this, and you will be able to learn a lot more about people from this. You'll be able to learn that in general, people who are low in energy, who seem bored and who seem to be struggling with some kind of difficulty or disorder in a show, is often a character who is struggling with something that makes them not seem like their natural type. Someone who is deeply neurotic, for example, will often be a completely different type than the one that they seem to be. And that is often how it works. You have to learn how to flip and see these levels and these layers. And you'll have to learn to see a personality type who is true to themselves compared to a personality type who has gone off their own path. And if you think about it, a TV show is written by often one or two people. And this means that in general, they have set perspectives, set experiences that they are processing or dealing with. They have personality types, people in their life that they know. But do they all know all of the types? How many people can carry and can actively hang out with all 16 of the personality types, coming to know them as they are? And how many can actually portray and write these characters to be good on the TV screen? I can imagine that even the most talented writers like George R.R. Martin are struggling with this, struggling with knowing a character's true motives and going deep enough. That's a huge journey, a huge venture. It can take many, many years to perfect a good character, and that's why, in general, main characters tend to be stronger personalities and more realistic personalities than the villains, who often tend to struggle with something or who seem one-dimensional. Look at like any movie, like Marvel does this all the time. They keep on forgetting about their villains because they are so focused on building good heroes. So the villains just become one-dimensional characters. And that's a general problem that we are all facing, like when we don't know how other people work and when we don't really understand them. Often we can resign ourselves to thinking that people have some certain motivations, but often these motivations are generally highly simplistic or fake. And then a lot of people assume these differences are real, when in general, no, they're not. They are often just folks' motives. A villain can claim to have one motive, but then they can have a sub-motive that goes much deeper. And because they are not aware of this sub-motive, this motive often just becomes some kind of cover for it. It becomes a way to avoid being vulnerable. And then you have this, because vulnerability is often key to a good story. A character who you can make naked, who you can make lose all their wrapping, all their clothing, all their fancy talking styles and all their fancy lines, and who you can see from many different angles. That is going to be a good personality character. That's going to be a person that is easier to type than the one-dimensional character, at least for the nuanced typer, because we are often so good at typing the stereotypical one-dimensional characters, but we are often struggling with typing the multi-dimensional real and realistic personality types. That's also something I notice. People who are new to it, they can take the stereotype and they can be so thrown off by it, and they can assume that, oh, this is so easy to type this character, but often they assume that the hero is so hard to type, but really it's flipped. The hero is much easier to type than the one-dimensional character that hides their true motives, hides their real personality, and hides their true agenda. That's my thought for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and may your neurons be with you.